Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something truly profound. We're looking at the final overarching conclusions of a celebrated piece of philosophical and spiritual literature known as the 10th Word. Now, if you've been following our journey through this source material, you already know we've been tackling some massively heavy existential questions. Well, today is where it all comes together. We're going to see how this text brings all those threads into one incredibly illuminating conclusion, one that totally reframes how we actually go about searching for truth in a pretty chaotic world. Okay, let's dive into this. I want you to just imagine for a second being trapped in a pitch black room. You know for a fact you have to get to the other side, right? But you're just holding your hands out, groping along the walls, maybe stepping your toes. You feel completely vulnerable and honestly entirely uncertain. Every single step is a huge risk. But now, imagine someone suddenly hands you a heavy-duty flashlight and just flips the switch. I mean, the relief is instant, isn't it? You're still walking the exact same physical path, sure, but the entire experience has transformed from terrifyingly difficult to completely clear and safe. And you know, this is the exact brilliant metaphor the author, Bediüzzaman Zaman, uses to frame the journey of our own minds when we're trying to seek out these ultimate universal truths. So, looking at how this metaphor actually breaks down, think about the human intellect operating all by itself. The text argues that the human mind, while absolutely incredible and powerful, definitely has its limits. When it's faced with the most massive, cosmic questions of existence, relying purely on the mind is literally like navigating that dark room blindfolded. It's vulnerable, it stumbles. But then, on the flip side, you have this clear path illuminated by the flashlight, which represents Quranic guidance. The author positions this divine illumination as that exact, much-needed flashlight. And what's really key here is that the flashlight doesn't replace your legs. You still have to do the walking, the critical thinking, and the logical contemplating. It just lights up the room so your intellect can actually see where it's going, without crashing headfirst into walls of doubt or despair. So the crucial point is why the intellect actually needs this flashlight in the first place, especially when it comes to one very specific, massive concept, resurrection or hashir. The source describes resurrection not just as some historical or biological event, but as a monumental cosmic reality, one that literally requires the manifestation of the Creator's most comprehensive and infinite attributes. I mean, think about it for a second. Our human minds, we operate on very narrow, finite, everyday earthly rules. So when our relatively small, everyday logic tries to wrap itself around an absolutely infinite reality like resurrection, well, it naturally short circuits. Without a guiding light, the intellect is basically forced into a corner. It either gives up in disbelief or just blindly imitates others without actually understanding the mechanics of what it's believing. And this brings us to a deeply personal reflection from the author. In the text, he states, "With the inspiration of the Quran and the mercy of the compassionate Creator, we must be infinitely grateful that in this age where blind imitation is broken and submission is weakened, He has shown us this deep and lofty path so easily." This is just a fascinating bit of context, honestly. The author is clearly recognizing that we live in a modern age. We don't just blindly accept traditions the way generations before us might have done, right? Our innate skepticism is high and our traditional submission is definitely weakened. And because of that modern reality, having a logical, accessible, step-by-step pathway to the truth, it's not just nice to have, it's absolutely essential for our spiritual and intellectual survival. Let's move to and see how this builds into the final methodology of the text. The entire journey of the 10th Word acts just like this structure of intellectual flashlight. First, as laid out in step 1, it takes these very accessible parables and stories, and it translates them directly into profound, universal truths. It basically makes the infinite relatable. Then, moving to step 2, it safely guides the mind through 12 distinct, highly logical doors. Every single door systematically breaks down a different mental barrier or philosophical doubt. You aren't just being asked to blindly believe. You're being carefully walked through the actual logic of belief, door by door, until the entire grand picture is just bathed in light. And this brilliantly illustrates the ultimate source of that light. The source text anchors its final conclusion with a really powerful quote from the Quran. "He gives wisdom to whom he wills, and whoever has been given wisdom has certainly been given much good." I feel like this perfectly ties the entire framework together. True wisdom isn't just about having raw intelligence or processing power or the ability to memorize a bunch of facts. It's the gift of perspective. It's having the right light to see the universe exactly as it is. Receiving this guidance is framed not as some sort of restriction on human freedom or thought. Actually, scratch that. It's the exact opposite. It's framed as the ultimate liberating gift from the Creator to the created. We've walked through some seriously incredible philosophical territory in this explainer, exploring exactly how a guided intellect can confidently step out of the shadows and grasp realities far, far larger than itself. But, this journey is ultimately deeply personal for every single reader. So as we wrap up our analysis of the 10th Word, I want to turn this directly over to you. Looking back at all the concepts, the parables, and those 12 logical pathways we've analyzed from this source, which specific door held a flashlight to your own personal intellectual darkness? Which argument was the one that finally flipped the switch for you? Take a real moment to think about that, because the light you just found, well, it might be the exact one you need for the rest of your journey.